Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we are going to make sublimation lanyards. Now, this is a project that I have gotten so many questions about over the years, and I didn't really have an occasion to make a lanyard, so I purchased some to sort of test them out. And if you don't know what a lanyard is, generally it's something that you would wear like at an event and you would clip on like an entry badge or something like that. And you can sublimate these and add a custom design. I'm going to show you how to add logo. On one of them I'm just going to add text like a name, and then on another I'm going to add an image. So whatever you want to add to a lanyard, this video should help you. And we're going to talk about what I found to be the best sublimation lanyards to purchase in order to make it easier for you to sublimate them. You should be able to sublimate these no matter what type of printer you have. You are going to need the longer 8.5 by 14 inch paper for what I'm going to do. And then I do recommend a larger heat press. You could make these using the Cricut Auto Press, maybe the larger Cricut Easy Press. I'm going to use a 15 by 15 heat press. So now let's take a look at the other supplies that we're going to use for this project. So you will need a sublimation print, and this is sublimation ink printed on sublimation paper from a sublimation printer. And I will walk you through the steps on designing the design for sublimation lanyards. Heat resistant gloves, the sublimation lanyard itself, and we're going to take a closer look at the type that I'm going to use and why I'm using it. Protective paper, lint roller, heat resistant tape. Now, I do recommend a heat press where we can press one side of the lanyard all at one time. So I am going to use a 15 by 15 inch heat press. And I also want to note that in order to do this all at one time, I am using 8.5 by 14 inch sublimation paper. So I do recommend the larger sublimation paper for the method that I'm going to show. I'm going to use this top sublimation lanyard, and I will link to what I'm using in the description below this video. So why I'm choosing this one is because it separates at the top. That leaves you with two pieces that you can sublimate. A traditional lanyard, which is more like this, comes all together and it loops all the way around. Because we're pressing this flat in a heat press, there is no way you will ever get anything perfect in this area. Any way that you lay this lanyard out in a heat press, there's always going to be an area that you can't sublimate or that is going to be imperfect. So I personally don't like this style of sublimation lanyard. Instead, I'm going to use this version. Now I'm going to sublimate on this strip and this strip, and I'm going to use the same design on both. And you could also sublimate on this side and flip it over and then sublimate on the inside as well. I'm not going to do that in this video, but you definitely could do that with this style of lanyard. Now I do have a free Canva template in order for you to make your design, because I'm going to make it a special way where the sides sort of fade out, because this paper is smaller than one side of my lanyard. So there is going to be some white area on both sides. Now, if you have a larger sublimation printer than I do, perhaps you have something that can go larger than 14 inches, then you can absolutely do it closer to the edges, but still a fading on the edges is going to make this look more professional. Because, let's say for instance, this side, it has a plastic piece on it. You cannot put this piece inside of your heat press. That means that you're not going to be able to go all the way up to the plastic piece. So no matter what size of template you use, gradually fading it on the edges is going to make the whole thing look a bit more professional. So now let's head to Canva and see how to make this design. When you pull up the lanyard template within Canva, you'll see that it's on an 8.5 by 14 inch sheet, and you have these squares ready to customize. Now each of these squares is made up of 3 elements, and let's say that I want to change the color of these. You're going to pick that middle rectangle, click color, and first pick the color that you want. And I did find that hitting change all here didn't work exactly right, so we're not going to do that. We're going to change them each individually. And now I'm still on the same one, going to click that color again. I'm going to click here on that color, and you can copy this color. So I'm going to right click and do copy, or you can do Command C or Control C on your keyboard. Now we're going to go to the end rectangles. That's where we get the gradient. And I'm going to click color and then click the linear gradient here and click here where this color is. And we're going to paste that color in. Again, if you do change all, it may work, it may not. You can try it. You can always hit undo if it doesn't work. That did work in this case. Then all I need to do is change the middle colors for each of these, and I will be ready to add a logo or name. So now I have the rectangles and the gradients the color that I want them. The first example I'm going to do is if you wanted to add a logo. So if you want to add a logo, click upload and upload the logo. I have my logo uploaded, so I'm just going to click the logo to add it to the canvas, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then you want to resize it. Now, these strips are slightly oversized, so you want to make sure to undersize this. And then you can duplicate it and just put it throughout the lanyard. Now, if you want to make sure that they're equally spaced, you can space the first one and the last one, then click Shift and highlight them all, click Position and Tidy Up. That will make them equally spaced throughout your lanyard. And now I want the second strip to be the same because it's for the same lanyard, so I'm going to duplicate that group, move it over. If you don't have a logo, perhaps you wanted to add a name. You can do that as well by choosing text and typing any name you would like, and you could change your font to be whatever you would like. You can also change the color of that text to whatever color you would like it to be. You can repeat the same steps to duplicate the name and make them equal distant throughout your lanyard. You can also upload an image and repeat the same process with an image to decorate your lanyard. Then when you're ready to print, click Share, Download, and I like to download this as a PDF for print, CMYK, and download. Then you can print this on the sublimation printer of your choice. You want to be sure to mirror your design when printing in order to sublimate on your lanyards. Then you can head to your heat press and first preheat your lanyards. This will remove any wrinkles, remove any moisture, and it also allows you to set the pressure in your press. About a medium pressure is good for these lanyards. And as you see here, you can preheat more than one lanyard at a time. And you will note when I'm pre-pressing these that I'm leaving the lanyard ends out of the heat press. So both the plastic end as well as the metal end. So for each of these lanyards, I want to sublimate the outside is what I'm going to do. Again, you could sublimate both sides. So I'm going to lint roll the outside of this one and the outside of this side. And then I'm going to sublimate these all at once, hopefully. So this is the outside of this version. And in order to do the outside of this version, I would either need to wait and sublimate it the next time or sort of flip it over onto this paper. So if you find it difficult to flip this over and do it at once, you don't have to do it this way. But I do like to do them all at once if possible. And as you can see, I'm going to have a little bit of white area on both sides. Now, do you want more white area on this end or this end? You can decide that at this point. So I'm probably going to move it further this way and have more white here, which would be behind the neck if someone was wearing the lanyard. Then for each of these, I am going to locate it and just add a couple of pieces of heat-resistant tape in order to hold it tight and into place. Now, if you tape in the center here, you just want to make sure that, say, this piece of tape doesn't get into the neck sublimation print. And I did space the template pretty good, but just make sure that you're not covering up your next print with a piece of heat-resistant tape. Then I'm gonna flip this over, do this side, and repeat it the same way. You just want to make sure that if you go too close this way, it might not lay flat in the heat press. So just make sure that it's going to lay flat for you when you heat press it. And I think, yeah, that should work well. Because remember, like this end will have to hang out of the heat press as well as this end. So you wanna be sure that everything will lay flat in the heat press and there's room to hang the ends out. So I'm just gonna repeat this process for my other two lanyards. So what I did, and I mean, you wouldn't have to do it this way, but I did 2 strips, exact same design, so that one lanyard goes here, one here, and one here. So I could do 3 lanyards with 1 sheet of sublimation paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat for these other 2. So now all of my lanyards are taped down and this is ready for the heat press. So let's head to the heat press and press. So I'm pressing these at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 60 seconds, and I'm putting protective paper on the bottom, adding the lanyard sublimation print side up, then adding protective paper over the top. And then just press. Again, I'm using about a medium pressure for these sublimation lanyards. Once the press is complete, you can remove the protective paper and remove the sublimation print from the lanyards. Now let's take a look at the results I was able to get with these. So here's what those lanyards look like now that they're completed. And again, I sublimated on one side. You could repeat this entire process and sublimate on the opposite side, but I'm sort of sublimating on the front. Now, I did not rotate my text. If you wanted the text to face, like when it was hanging on a person, maybe the text is this way and then it would be flipped on this side, you could do that in your template as well. I didn't, I thought it looked fine this way, but I did want to mention that. And then the fading on the edge worked pretty good. I feel like I picked a bit of a light color to do the fading, but I feel like the fading itself makes it look a bit more professional than just sort of ending the design on the ends. And like I said, if you have a larger sublimation printer or a way to print very long and press very long, you could get even closer. You could perhaps get to the seam on this end and maybe, you know, a little bit away from the plastic piece. But remember, both the plastic and the metal need to stick out of your heat press. So now you know the best way to make yourself a sublimation lanyard, or make these for an event that you're having. Make these just for fun for all of your friends. There are tons of possibilities with these, and they're not that hard to make. Just with a few tips and tricks, you can make super cute sublimation lanyards. Now, if you left your background white, you wouldn't have to do with a lot of the steps that I did with the colors and the fading and all that kind of thing. You could just add the logos. You could add a name, you could add a photo, a picture, and sort of space them like I showed you in Canva, print them out and add them to your lanyard. That would probably be an even easier option, but I figured people would want to know how to make the background a color, so I did a color in this case. And like I said, if you want to sublimate both sides of the lanyard, that is an option as well. I just opted to do a single side, so it's in a continuous loop and sublimated, but the inside is not sublimated. If you have any questions about sublimating on lanyards, feel free to drop down in the comment section and ask away. If you liked this video and it helped you, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.